but I want to meet you from a different place. I want to meet you from a place of innocence and curiosity and fucking turn on. I don't want to meet you from my intellect. We meet in a different way. Can we meet here in our hearts, in our bodies? And now I'm not talking about even just sexually. I'm talking about, can we actually drop down and get into our bodies and meet from a different place?
Hey, I'm Jen, host of the Open Bedroom podcast, where you'll find topics of sex, dating, relationships, non-monogamy, and more. I'm glad you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Open Bedroom podcast. Today, I am talking to Veronica Lynn Clark. She is a transformative coach, best-selling author, podcast host, it's a pretty saucy podcast, and celebrated spiritual teacher dedicated to guiding individuals toward profound self-discovery and deeper intimacy relationships. With a mission to empower authentically, she facilitates transformative experiences that allow individuals to connect deeply with themselves and others. And today, Veronica and I are talking about conscious dating. Veronica, welcome to the podcast. So glad you're on today.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm super excited to be here and dive into this conversation. It's a juicy one. So.
It is. And I haven't talked about dating in a while, even though in an open relationship, like I'm kind of constantly dating and I'm always on these dating apps. And the biggest thing I wanted to ask you about today, and just kind of to kick off our conversation, is I'm in this really huge mom group on Facebook. It's all of Northwest Arkansas. And as I was describing before, maybe this gives some context too to our listeners. The area that I live is very high income, very highly educated, power women and men. We are talking about best of the best, smartest of the smartest. People that are running Google are like, these guys are running Walmart home office. And what I hear and see over and over is there are no good men out there. I can't find anybody on the dating apps. I'm just going to have 200 plants and some cats and die alone. And so I wanted to first ask you, like, is this really reality?
That's their reality. That is their reality. If that is what they believe, that's what they're going to continue to bring about. That's what they're going to continue to attract into their lives. Our reality is based off of what we think about, what we believe, and what we're continuously saying over and over and over again. And so I see this all the time, and very affluent, high-powered women, is that they don't believe that anybody is really going to be able to meet them where they are. They use a lot of different kind of tactics, strategies, instead of actually being in their heart and being able to attract from a place of integrity and respect for themselves, but also for softness. If anybody is saying that this is all that there is out there, that's what they're going to continue to see, because some part of them, that's what they want to believe. We have a confirming bias, right? And this holder of the confirming bias wants to be right. And there is a part of us also that's like, prove me wrong, but you're going to have to go through hoops. You're going to have to go through all these tests because I'm just waiting to see you fuck up. Like I know it's there and I want to be right. I don't want to be right, but I know I'm right. I hope that I'm not right. I hope that you can be the one. I hope that I can actually, follow your lead. And I hope that I can really be in my feminine. I hope I can really be turned on, but also I don't trust you. And I'm going to be looking out for, for any little sign that I was right in the beginning. I mean, tell me, as I'm painting that picture, like, tell me what's happening in you.
Well, I'm thinking like it steps behind that belief. It's like, I believe there's no good men. Well, you don't just believe that there's no good men. Like there's trauma, there's a history, there's patterning somewhere deep inside of you that's saying men will not show up for me, or there are no good women. Everyone's a slut, right? And so what I'm hearing from you is our perspective out into the world. What did you say? We have something about cognition. We want to
confirming bias.
Confirming bias. So because we have this perspective, our mind goes to find that that's true. And so it's like patterning that story back to us. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. And also, I mean, that's a very simplified explanation.
Mhm.
It's so much more nuanced, just as you were describing. There's patterns, there's history, there's things that have happened. We don't become the people that we are just out of nowhere. It
Mhm.
comes from something. It comes from the stories we've told ourselves. It comes from our past experiences. And it comes from all the times that we have been disappointed and let down and we didn't know how to speak up. We didn't name the thing because we didn't have the language for it. And so then we tolerated it and we put up with it. And then whatever continued to happen. And then we started to frame a belief and a wall that, keeps love out, keeps attention out of protection.
Mm.
And I see it a lot. And just speaking about women for right now, but I see a lot of really strong, powerful women who have become so strong and powerful because they are that innately, but also because of a lot of the experiences and the letdowns and the disappointments that they've had, and they've learned how to depend on themselves, and they've learned how to find a sense of worth and power and validation through a lot of the work that they do. And since that bucket kept giving them a lot of rewards, a lot of accolades, a lot of money, a lot of, that good
Mm.
feeling, they kept their energy going there. Right. And so if this other area of love isn't really working out so much, I'm not going to give so much attention here. I'm going to have some stories about, what, people just can't meet me. They're intimidated by my success and all the other things because actually looking at the fragility of what has gotten us there in the first place is so fucking painful sometimes. And it requires us to actually do some deeper work that a lot of people don't want to do because they're worried that it might rock this boat. If I
Yeah.
start pulling back these layers, then I may not be able to show up as effectively. I may not be as strong. I may not be able to be the high-powered version of myself that I think that I am or that I've developed myself to be. Right?
Yeah, I would just like to say guilty. Because I've been her. Like I've been her over and over. I think about, and I'm sure you do too, like all the versions of yourself that are just like dead lying behind you. Like the masculine version, the I can do everything for myself. I don't need fucking anybody else version. This like, oh my God, it's so hard. This is so painful version. Like there's so many versions of me that are like dead laying behind me. And you're right. I love what you just said. Like to be that really strong, high earning woman, you have to be a version of yourself that maybe isn't going to be the same version that's going to attract that kind of yummy, masculine, safe, secure man because you're showing up as that.
Right. I want to jump and just share a
Mm.
little bit about myself for a moment,
Please.
but and I too have been her, which is why I know her so intimately and can speak so honestly about it because I have been that. And so now when I am dating or I'm with lovers, I I am very upfront and share I don't want to talk about my profession, what I do. That is a different side that I actually don't want to bring into this in this moment. It doesn't mean that we can't ever talk about it. And certainly you can look online and you can listen to my podcast and you can learn all those things, but I want to meet you from a different place. I want to meet you from a place of innocence and curiosity and fucking turn on. I don't want to meet you from my intellect. I don't want to talk with you about that. That is not what's going to turn me on. I mean, that will turn me on in the beginning because I'm like, you need to be intelligent enough to be able to hang with me. Like, I want to be able to respect,
Yeah.
your intelligence as well. And then there's a point where, that has to be, put aside. And it's like, can we meet in a different way? Can we meet here in our hearts, in our bodies? And now I'm not talking about even just sexually. I'm talking about can we actually drop down and get into our bodies and meet from a different place? Because then we're going to be able to communicate in a different way.
Mm.
That is not something that a lot of people are comfortable with and haven't had a lot of practice with knowing how to do because we talk so much all of the time and we we talk so much that it covers up true intimacy and connection. And I have learned for myself, in order for me to show up, it's not even for them, but for me to show up so I can be whole in my experience in that moment, I have to slow down and I have to stop talking. And I need to be in presence with this person so that I can see what's really showing up, what actually wants to be said. I don't want to meet you in the ego or in the, all the, just all the things that we've done. Let's meet somewhere else. What really wants to be revealed here? Why are we really attracted to each other? So that might be a different podcast, a different kind of conversation.
No, I'm like, I want that. So like I immediately in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh wait, but hold on. Everybody has these lists. Like
Yeah.
these lists of what you want in another person. And you're right. You like come in with your list and you come in with your brain. And like I just did it this morning. I connected with someone on field and her and I are chatting back and forth. And I'm like, I've got to find the connection. I've got to find the connection. I'm not like, let's just be yummy together and go grab a coffee and like snuggle and like feel each other, you know? So I'm like, so maybe take us through like, how do you get from we met wherever, kickboxing class, yoga, dating app, to how do we meet each other? Like I see your primal behind you. I feel your primal. Like I feel you coming at me from your heart. How the fuck do we get there when we live here 90% of our day?
Yeah,
And is that going to freak other people out?
it could. It very well could,
Okay.
and that's okay. We have to know that, but it can also, they may not be ready at that time. That's okay. It doesn't mean that you won't still leave some lasting impression on them. And, I think the first thing before you just go out and start dating and using this approach, this heart-centered approach that I'm talking about, you have to first be heart-centered with yourself. So when I decided to get back out and start dating and really exploring open relating, exploring what does love mean, what does connection mean, what does that look like, how is it supposed to look, what are my attachments to what I think it is supposed to look like. When I was really willing to explore those questions with myself, I started to ask, well, how do I want to be loved? And how do I want to love? Like, what does that look like? What does that actually feel like? And does it really have to come from in a particular way? Could the universe surprise me? Now, when you look at those questions, how do I want to be loved and how do I want to love? If we're really looking at loving ourselves, then there's respect, right? So we know that I want to be respected. How do I want to respect myself? How do I respect myself? Well, I speak up. I use my words. I have boundaries. Well, what are my boundaries? Why do I even have boundaries? Boundaries are there to for you to support yourself, to be supported, to be your highest and best self. They're not walls. Most people think these are my boundaries. This is my wall. We don't have sex because we don't have it because I just met you. And so this is a wall that I'm putting up, not necessarily a boundary. Now, if it was a boundary, we would say, you know what? The boundary of me not having sex is valuing myself, valuing my time, and ensuring that you're actually the kind of a person that I really want to exchange energy with. And so that's a different approach than just, I'm not doing it because of this. No, I'm understanding that the boundary is a level of understanding my value and my worth. And women, anybody needs to spend time looking at what are they protecting? What is it that's valuable in them? Because that's going to help them to determine, how do I want to love? How do I want to be loved? And that that will help you to automatically start to attract a different kind of a person. We don't just attract what we want, we do attract what we are. And even if initially somebody comes into our field that is high vibrational or is what we want, ultimately, if we haven't cleared those hangups in ourselves, then they're going to leave or it's going to It's not gonna, it's not gonna be a match, right?
Mm.
And so the very first, the starting point is turning inwards. You have to look at your stories, look at your attachments, look at what you believe, and then start to reconstruct your idea of relating and what that means to you and what love means and how you want to love and how you want to show up for that love.
So if people are listening and they're like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Like, I'm
Mhm.
so broken. And I know that I'm not doing this right. It's not working because I'm broken. There's things inside of me that are like just open and bleeding and not fixed. And I'm acknowledging that that's true. Um, where does someone even start?
Yeah.
Because
It's
that
really,
feels really overwhelming.
it can be. And I want to speak to that because you are so right. So many people can feel that way. And um being really transparent just because I believe somebody here is going to be able to benefit from that. I can talk about these things and I'm here because I was such a mess. I came through and grew up under so much abuse, so much sexual violation and exploitation in so many different ways from such a young age. I was introduced to it from 4 years old and had horrible experiences all throughout my life up until I was 17. And it was terrible. And it was more than some people can even fathom, could it could even wrap their head around. But I say that because that led me to being so promiscuous or having sex with people at a young age that I didn't even want to because I didn't know that I didn't have to.
Mhm.
Because the programming and the wiring was just like, oh, you want to have sex? Okay, let me just go to sleep and just do it. Because I was so offline, so disconnected from my body. So this was not what I'm talking about is truly a pretty highly advanced approach to love. And I had to learn how to rewire myself from all of that. You talk about all those versions of you. There's so many versions of me that are lined up. My 12-year-old girl, these different hustlers, these different parts of me that were like, show your titties. This is the way that you get love. This is the way people like you.
Mhm.
It took me forever to recognize that it was even my like little girl that was actually showing up whenever I started flirting with men. Why? Because I was exposed at such a young age that my sexual chemistry was connected to a very young exploited version. So she was the one that would show up in the majority of my dating and certainly earlier in my marriage and different times. Those are the things that we have to track. And if we can't get in front of that and start to like look at that, then we keep playing out the same patterns over and over again. So by the time I finally asked myself, fuck this, Veronica, like, do you want to keep going through this? Do you want to keep attracting this same thing? Is this really what you want? Like, honestly, true up with yourself. Is this really what you want? Do you want to pretend like you have a really good life on the outside and it looks good? Or do you actually want to have one that you actually feel good in? You can't play around. You have to start really getting honest. So those questions, and I spent 3 years in what I call intermittent celibacy. On occasion, I would, if I felt a deep attraction and connection to somebody, then I would make love with them. And for me, that was a gorgeous laboratory of experiment. Like, how much have I grown?
Mhm.
Where are my attachments? Where am I clinging? Where am I projecting? Where am I hoping that this person can secretly fix me or make me feel better or make me feel like I'm something? Like if I still had that, I wasn't ready for a relationship
Mm.
because then I knew I needed to come back because I'm like, "Oh baby, you're still looking for validation from out there." Okay. And we do all need to be validated on some level, right? We're humans. We need to know, hey, high five, you're doing great. But it can't feed our soul in the way of trying to repair it,
Mm.
right? From the wounds and damage. There's certain work that only we can do ourselves. And that was the work that I chose to do. And so afterwards I was like, I I need a man, I need a woman, I need a being who I can feel like when our bodies can come together, I know the difference between my trauma responses and me looking for a safe space, a home, and where I feel like I'm meeting this person as a whole self and they're meeting me as a whole self. And I'm fucking turned on by this. I'm going to eat them up and I'm going to let them devour me too.
Fuck yes. Yeah. Yes. But to get there, because I was just there this weekend with my two girlfriends and it was fucking amazing. There's steps, right?
Yeah,
There's
for sure.
identifying that what you're doing isn't working. Clearly, it's not working. When you say there is literally no one in my entire region to date, this is a you problem. So like
Hmm.
there has to be an awareness that it's you. It's not them. And then it sounds like there's another step of spending a lot of time with yourself. Maybe it's reparenting that little child inside. Maybe it's journaling, working with a coach, working with a therapist. I'm sure Veronica offers services that give you this kind of identification and container to work through this kind of shit because it's falling apart. Right? It's this death of all these versions of you behind yourself that you can look back and say, I'm not that anymore. And then it sounds like I loved your two questions. Like, what was it? How do I want to be loved? And
Hmm.
how do I want to love? And I think when you get really clear on those things, they can even show up in your dating profiles. They can show up in your conversations with your friends, in your, this is what I'm looking for. I want to love someone like this, and this is how I want to be loved. And that's that fucking magic sauce, right? Where the other person on the other end that's done his work or her work, and they're looking for someone like you, and that stickiness all comes together. And then you get to have this magical sex where you're
Yes.
like, I'm meeting a real human right where I'm at and right where they're at. And I'm not bringing my trauma into this, and I can really love.
Oof.
Mm.
Oof. I just already love you so much because this is such deep stuff. And I'm going to come back to how do we get there? But
Yeah.
this that you're talking about right now, when you get to really meet this person, it really, you move out of just the personal realm into the transpersonal realms.
Mhm.
It's not just about just you and me anymore. This is about like really being made love open to like meet the God force to meet, right?
Mhm.
This is what Osho talks about in these orgasm being just fucked open to God, right?
And if
And
you have not experienced this and you're like, what the fuck are these ladies talking about? Keep searching, keep digging, keep doing the work because it is there. It is
yep.
possible. It should be normal. You should meet God every time you fuck. Like, this shit's real.
Every time. That's right. Oh my God, this is so yummy. Yes. Okay. So how do we get there? Ladies, gents, if you think that nobody's out there, that's not true. You've got to start to change your perspective. And we get really attached to our perspective. So you've got to be willing to surrender that for something new and have some new awarenesses come in. The next thing is that when you answer those questions for yourself, how do I want to be loved? How do I want to love? I would suggest try to take an image of a person out of it. Let them be a faceless person and just focus on the qualities and the ways that it feels, right? And then start from that place, start writing down needs. Like, what are my needs? What are actually my needs? What do I want? And just make a list. And I suggest keeping a list in your phone and not just on a piece of paper. So that way you can keep coming back to that list and you can update it and you can change it as you have different experiences. When you make this list, then and it feels like this is pretty comprehensive for right now. Like look through that and then start to evaluate, okay, is this really something that's reasonable to ask from a partner? Is this something that I can really get, or is this actually something that I need to give to myself? So you need to be able to differentiate between what's realistic to ask from a partner and what is it that I actually need to give to me. Just a little example of that, which I had no awareness of, and I wouldn't have been able to identify this clearly at the time, but I realized after I got a divorce and that I wanted my husband to save me. Like I really, and I wouldn't have been able to quite articulate that, but it was a feeling. And that feeling, the way I became aware of it was because I had this sense of constant disappointment and letdown. So if somebody is dating and they feel disappointed and they feel that constant, like, I'm always let down, I'm never met, there is something in that for you. It is probably not because the person, they may not be doing the things either, but there's just probably something for you to dive into for that. So when you're looking at your needs, you need to try to evaluate, is this realistic? And is this something that's like, this is an absolute non-negotiable. I need this from a partner. And if that is, then you've got to be willing to stand behind that. And you have to also be able to be that version of yourself inside of yourself. Otherwise, you won't be able to attract it. If you want a person who has integrity, you better damn well carry yourself with integrity. If you want somebody who's going to be honest with you and tell you the truth, then you better do the same thing in every single area of your life. There can't be any shortcuts. So whatever you want, you've got to be that for yourself through and through. And we're not going to be perfect. So that's, that's understandable. But for the most part, you have to start reevaluating your own value system and how you're carrying yourself, or you're not going to attract that.
This also sounds like a very mature list that you put together. It's not like he must be over 6 feet tall and have green eyes and
I
smell
have some
like
of that. I do have some
chocolate.
of that,
Yeah.
but I want to tell you something, but the most magical connections that I've had, the absolute most magical, transformational, blow my mind. Like, what is this? I just got lost for 8, 12 hours here in this. Didn't look anything like whatever that 6 foot whatever, and didn't look like that. It came in such a different package that it just was like, wow. And had I not been open to that, then I would have missed out on something that was so beautiful that that and I'm so blessed and fortunate to have so many of these different experiences in my life because I know that magic exists. And I know it's possible when two human beings truly get to meet each other, not from just the head, but something that can happen. And it can be healing and um elevating. It can be everything. And
Mhm.
it's nameless.
So is that the next step is kind of a trust your gut? So like you've made this list, but what if this person shows up and it doesn't match your list? What do you do?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and so there is a part also is that for me, you also need to be attracted, right? So if you are considering a romantic relationship, then part of, the thing that differentiates a friendship, a platonic relationship from a romantic relationship or a sexual and attracted relationship is your level of attraction. So you need to feel desire. It can't just be a companion. That's nice and all, but if you really want this to like turn into something that can be, wow, really magical, then you've got to have sexual attraction as well. So if you attract somebody and you're really compatible, but you just don't feel mm, that magic, in the kiss and the touch, then in my experience, um, it it takes a lot of effort to try to make that happen. And so I would say that's probably not the right match, but it's a good start and it's a good place to kind of practice with. So if so you may need to have some of those, things met. I probably am not, I mean, the universe could really surprise me, but I'm 5'9". I'm likely not going to be attracted to somebody who's 5'2". That's in a male body, right? That's probably just not going to work for me. That
Mm.
doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that 5'2" person, but it's just not going to be a match for me. Although we could be great companions energetically, sexually, I'm going to need something else that's going to turn that part of me on. So every individual will likely have something that's going to help to turn that specific energy on.
Mm. So when you get a hit that it's a no, how do
Mhm.
you nicely move on? How do you tell them?
Um, I have an honest conversation. I have an honest conversation. And this happened earlier this year that we had a conversation about it, and we were talking because it came up in our kissing. And I said, yeah, I said feel I just don't feel that attraction in our kiss, and therefore I'm not able to really show up. And so I think that there's a misalignment here for us. And he understood because he said, yeah, I could feel that myself. And I was like, okay, I think that this just isn't, it's not a great match. And, we expressed some disappointment. He's like, oh, I'm disappointed that it didn't work out. And I'm like, yeah, me too. But you know what? Amazing we, uh, that we got to connect, and then we get to consciously uncouple like this. Like he's actually the one that said, wow, this is the first time that I've really been able to have this kind of conversation. And it's like, I think we just consciously uncoupled. I said, yeah, we did. And we did a great
Yay.
job. Yeah, and with respect.
I
With
love
respect.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can always be like that, right? You can choose to remain and just be friends. You can choose to just move on with your life. In the same way that you're consciously dating. Yeah, I love that you can always conscious uncouple. And why wouldn't you, right? It's
Why wouldn't you?
childish to go ghost somebody and
Yeah.
just say, just not feeling the zing.
Yeah. And it's like most of the time it's just we're afraid to hurt somebody's feelings. And so then we just don't say anything at all, which is really just as like terrible. Like you're really most of the pain comes the way that people leave. It's not that they leave, it's how they leave.
Mhm.
And then so if we can just have enough respect for ourselves. If I respect myself, then I also want to treat you with respect and just say the simple thing. It doesn't have to be a huge explanation. You don't have to let them know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but you can say, you know what? I've enjoyed the time that we've spent getting to know each other, and I don't feel like this is a match for me. And
Done.
then see what they say.
I find the hardest part at the beginning. Like, you're talking about like all this magic and like connecting from the heart and like
Mhm.
consciously saying yes to dating people. But recently, my main partner and I, we've been trying Facebook dating, which is kind of like Tinder. It's like the giant ocean of humans who and then just in my own experience, and now I'm sounding like these ladies where they're like, there's no one out there, but my experience has been like, there's not a ton of depth. So, and people are very quick to like move on instead of apps like Field or even Bumble, where I'm finding like there's more care and there's more conversation and there's more like, I just don't think I'm up for a couple or I'm up for a throuple or I'm up for a whatever. Like, I want something a little different. And so I'm curious, I'm sure this can also translate to people in monogamous relationships, but like, how do you get the first part off the ground? Like, is it just like the magic of the intention and the, like, here's my list of what I want and what I want, how I want to be loved? Or like, are you rewriting dating profiles? Are you not getting on an app? Are you magically calling them
Mhm.
into the bar that you walk into? Like, talk to me about the beginning sticky part.
Yeah. So yeah, in full transparency, I actually don't have experience with dating apps. What I have done is I actually like people to introduce me to people. And so I'll meet people by I let people know like I'm looking I'm looking to meet someone, and I'll say it in a fun way. Like I have a couple friends or I have different people, and I'll say, yeah, I'm looking for this and somebody who likes to do all these things, and just yeah, keep me in mind if you run across somebody that you know or one of your friends or something like that. And I just say it very casually. Like, really.
Mhm.
And I cannot tell you how many times that this happens, and I'll get set up with somebody, or somebody will, somebody else will say, "Oh my gosh, you remind me of such and such. You have to meet this person." S- My students, I'm a facilitator, so my students will even like, try to connect me with someone, and I enjoy that because it's like somebody is somewhat vetted.
Mhm.
Now, if I were on dating apps, then I would be I would be a little more clear about what it is that I'm looking for, okay, in the profile. And, I've actually just thought about doing a lab kind of for myself and just getting on there to see if I can test my own hypothesis. But again, I do believe that we will attract ultimately what we are. And I think if you put out a call, you put something out and you attract certain people. Let me pause there for a second. I teach and lead a lot of different retreats, and there's a bunch of stuff, I have to promote a lot of different things. I promote workshops and promoting, and I just have to put out there very clearly what it is that I'm doing. And not everybody is going to come knocking, but certain people will hear the call. Certain people will. And so the more clear that you are, the less ambiguous. Like, I'm looking for someone who I can connect with on a deeper level than just the superficial, just the mind. I want to connect with my body, my spirit. I want to connect with somebody who is interested in drinking pina coladas and going dancing in the rain. I'm just joking. But seriously, being more vulnerable, I think, and actually putting the thing instead of trying to put the cute thing out there, I think is going to be more, it's going to attract a different person. Also, it could be, as you described, if you're on the Facebook apps versus maybe some of the other intentional ones, then maybe you don't go on the Facebook apps.
Mhm.
Maybe you go on the field, or you spend more money in going on some of the other apps, Raya, or some of the other ones that are going to be more intentional, because there's going to be a different caliber of people there, perhaps. Some people who may be less invested, it's like, how invested are you really in getting to know somebody? How invested are you truly in your elevation, in your expansion, in your personal relationships? Are you looking for just a hookup? If you're looking for that, great. If I'm looking for a hookup, I know exactly where I need to go. We know where we need to go if we want a hookup. But if you want something different, then you're going to go to a different place.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to say do the same thing with the dating apps. And then when you are on the dating app that feels more aligned, then you've got all these other people out there. So you've got to be able to put something out that's like, this is actually representing the real me. And if you are so lucky to find the needle in the haystack, well, then you just hit the jackpot.
Yes. What a beautiful way to like close this up, because I told you at the beginning we were going to talk about conscious dating. And when
Mhm.
I think about unconscious dating, you're like left, 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 like you're just scrolling through faces in half a second and you're like, oh, that one looks hot, right? Like, and what we've talked about today is really dissecting like our reason for dating and what's coming up and are we finding people or not? And then we're realizing it's us. And then we're realizing we need help. And we
Yeah.
need to like unwire everything and
Yeah.
reprogram it and then come at dating in a way that's mindful and special and conscious, and even choosing the dating apps that we're on, that we're choosing something that's going to be aligned with what we're looking for.
Absolutely.
This was freaking amazing. Would you tell us, like, what things do you offer? It sounds like you do a lot of in-person stuff. If
Yeah.
anyone's listening and they're like, I need help unraveling who I am inside because clearly I'm the problem, do you offer
Mm.
solutions for that?
I absolutely offer solutions. I do want to say something else though, and this
Yeah.
is, and I'm stepping out on a limb here saying this, but I feel like it would be helpful for someone. I'm used to getting a lot of projections. People will say a lot of different things to me. Some people say, it looks like everything comes easy to you. It looks like blah, 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 all these things. And I'm used to it and I'm okay with holding the point for that. But I want anybody that's watching this or listening that everything that I am today, it took a lot of fucking work. It took a lot of commitment and it took a lot of dedication to being like choosing who I wanted to be. This did not happen overnight and it was not by happenstance and it is absolutely not by luck. This is very important because what we're talking about it can be easily overlooked and people can say, it's easy for her to say because she looks like that, or it's easy for her to say. And that don't do that to yourself and don't say that because it's not. We will if we continue to stay focused on the outside, and if that's what we think that is going to get us what we want, you are sadly, sadly, sadly mistaken. It begins with the inside. And if you're not willing to do the work, you're not going to get the results. And everything else, like, you know what? I'm so grateful for my health. I'm grateful that I get to look a certain way, the way that I do. And I don't always look this way. Some days I look like really bloated and look like all kinds of different stuff, I mean, we're all human. But it begins with the inside. And that is, I cannot emphasize that enough. Now, how do you get in contact with me? For one, I am a sacred sexuality teacher and I teach in many different ways. One, I teach, I'm a facilitator with ISTA, which is the International School of Temple Arts. So I have a training that you can come and join me in November. I will be with my colleagues and wonderful friends, Triambika and Juanes, and we will be in New Mexico, and that's going to be in November. That is a radical, a place for radical transformation. When I first took my first ISTA level 1, it rocked my world. It blew me right open. I was already on a path for about 9 years prior to that with Kundalini yoga and Tantra and a lot of things, but this just completely, it it was a catalyst for massive change. So find me there. You can also find me on my website, which is veronicalynnclark.com. I am a resident teacher at Savannah Wellness Resort and Spa. So that is my home base. I lead a lot of transformational workshops that will absolutely change your world. I have no doubt that one workshop with me will radically change your life. I hear it, I see it all the time. And so I'm in residency there. You can find some of those dates on my website or on Instagram, which is Veronica L. Clark. The only reason why I can truly stand behind what I'm saying with confidence is because I've had to walk through my own darkness to be able to find my way out. And that is why I am so effective at helping the people that I help. I do one-on-one coaching. So I do one-on-one work, and I also do women's work in September 26th through the 28th. Mark your calendars for this. I will be holding body temple sensuality training for women. This is the ultimate embodiment experience. It was designed initially for helping to heal from my own sexual trauma and, wounds around sexuality and how that, affected everything, confidence and motherhood. And it has grown immensely. I have helped hundreds upon hundreds of women who have come through this training, and you will not be the same. So September 26th through the 28th, Body Temple Sensuality Training, and that will be here in Arizona. Yeah.
Perfect. I will put all these links below so that you guys can go hop into something, follow Veronica on all the platforms. And I really want to give you like a little oomph here. If you're listening to this and you're identifying that it's time to do the inner work, It's time because you're seeing the reflection of what you're trying to get and you're not getting it. I really want to encourage you to jump into an in-person event. I'm sure both Veronica and I could give you some really crazy ass stories of things that we've done to bust our own selves open to become the versions of ourselves that we are today. And they're not comfortable and they're sometimes really heart opening and sometimes there's naked on a mountain in ice cold rain. That was my experience too.
Yeah, I've got
You
some similar.
will never be the same. You will never be the same. And you will finally attract the kind of people that you want to have in your life as close friend circles, as partners, as humans, walking this planet together. And so I want to encourage you. I'm like getting tingles everywhere. Like, do it. Do something. Say yes to one of her events and come back changed. Veronica, thank you so much for joining us today. This is amazing.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Open Bedroom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and give us a like and click subscribe below and stay up to date on all the new episodes that we release. If you have a topic that you'd really like more information on, leave us a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and especially your partners. This is a great way to open up some amazing conversations. We'll see you next week.